Hey, welcome to a new episode of Josh's Car Corner. This is part 5 of Project E38, where I'm attempting to upgrade the computer in my GTO to the E38 computer, which will add a lot of upgradability and possibilities for the future, not just for me, but for anybody who owns a Pontiac GTO. So a lot of things have been going on since the last episode. I've got a lot of work done on the engine harness. So I'm going to be pulling the camera away in a minute and showing you that. But before I do that, I wanted to show you what I've been using as some of the tools to get this project done. So in the last episode, you saw this guy, the little ratchet pin crimper. Well, fortunately, it also works for putting the pins on the new wires to go into the connectors on the E38 side, so you can plug into the computer. Here's another one. This has been essential for getting the pins out of the old E40 connectors. This is a specialized tool. It's just got a really thin little piece of metal here with a point. And what happens is this goes into the connector on the E40. So if you see here, you've got the pin rows laid out and the round pins. And in between each set of two, there's a little hole. You push this guy in there like that. Now you can pull the pins out of the connector. And this is how you remove the round pins on an E40 or a P59 computer. As you can see here, I've already got two of the pin or connectors completely undone. The gray one and the blue one are all now living on the E38 connector. And I'm gonna just take the camera away here so I can show you all the work I've been doing. So first off, this is my engine harness as it sits right now. Now the great thing about repinning all of this is that I've discovered that the blue and this gray connectors off the E40, all of those pins live on one connector on the E38, the X1 connector, apart from one. There's one wire that lives on this connector, the X2 connector. Here is my little array of pins that I ordered. I got these from DigiKey. I ordered 300 pins. I won't use close to all of these, but I'll have extras for future projects, which will be nice. And then got the crimping tool right here. I also ordered a bunch of this. Now, this looks like electrical tape, but if you've ever dug into a wire harness for a car, on the inside of underneath all of the protective plastic wrap, you'll see everything's held together with cloth tape. So this is like electrical tape, but it's made of cloth. So what I'm going to do is, because you can see there's a little bit of a mess going on here because, of course, not all the wire lengths are the same, and the pins aren't always in the same places they would be on the old E40 connectors. Some are now way over here when they were originally on this side, vice versa. So these links are all just a random mess. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this plastic off, and I'm going to undo all the tape and take this way back and try to straighten this all out as best as possible. Then I'm going to retape it with cloth, and then I'm going to put the loom back on and then tape that. The goal ultimately would be to try to get all of the wiring under this massive loom right here, or get a new piece of loom to accommodate everything, because this is still the black connector off the E40, and all of these pins still have to get transferred over to here. But once I'm done with that, I would love to get everything living in here, because right now this is just the body harness connector, the one I spent all that time in the garage undoing. So here's the X1 and the X2 connectors that I installed. And this one wire that's still floating around here, this is actually for that crank request that I was talking about in the third part of this project. So when you follow this back down, I was talking in the last episode about how there's the hole in the firewall that wiring goes through. This is that hole right here. So what I've done in the interim, this is the connector that lives in the car that connects behind the driver's side kick panel. So I have added pins because, thanks to the Camaro harness and other wiring that other people have graciously sent me, I've come up with a couple extra pins that will work in here, and they even happen to have the correct color wires for what they're doing. I am doing my best to keep everything color coordinated and use the same color wires that GM did for everything, so it just makes things easier to track. So I added these two pins right here. So the top one is the purple. That's going to be the crank request pin. And this purple with white stripe is going to be the new clutch pedal position sensor. So I ran these wires through here, and they're going to come back out right here. Now the clutch pedal position one, I've already dealt with. So this now goes through here, and it goes along the loom here and down into this connector. So that one's dealt with. The crank request I still have to do, because that's going to come along here. It has to come along here, around, and eventually get into here, where it will go back into the car and then go to the powertrain information module. What I'll show you right here, this is going to be in for part 6 of the project. This is my bench harness. This is like version 0.1 of my bench harness. And as you'll see, there's another powertrain interface module sitting here and a BCM. Somebody very gracious who has a parts GTO sold me these. And this is a security link pair. So I now have another security matched PIM and BCM for future projects. And more than likely, these are going to end up in the Crewman. I also now have my OBD2 connector, my data link connector. This guy right here is just handling all the different power to run everything. So on one side of this is going to be battery positive voltage, and on the other side is going to be 12 volt key on voltage. And you need to have both when you're going to run devices outside the car. It does make a difference. And then I still am waiting for my grounding block to arrive via Amazon so I can tie all my ground wires together so everything will be properly grounded. The only thing I don't have yet is a power generator to run all this stuff. Now my buddy Sean's got his, and the next time we're going to fire devices up, we'll probably use his generator again. Now I'll take you up to the car and I'll show you what I had to do underneath the dash for that wiring right there. So I've got my trusty DeWalt light going here, and I know it looks really bright on the camera, but let me get that turned around here. So right here you can see this thing dangling right here. So this is the clutch pedal position sensor. So that lives up in here, and it attaches to a bulkhead above where the clutch pedal lives. And how this works is when the clutch pedal is up, this little plunger is pushed in, and then when you press the clutch, this little plunger goes out, and then that either opens or closes the circuit to let the computer know where the clutch is at. So this is the purple with white wire that I'm now going to have to cut and run over here. So you can see there's a couple of wires dangling right here. They look like they're kind of like this violet color, kind of like a fuchsia. Well, this is purple electrical tape, because unfortunately to do this part, the pins I was able to retrieve, I couldn't get ones with purple wiring, so I just had to tape them purple so I knew what they were. But if I go up here, I don't know if I'll be able to get the camera in here, but this is the other connector that I had to modify. So if you look here, so you see that one piece of copper sticking out there, that is going to become where the clutch pedal position wiring is going to attach. And then when I plug the loom back in, then that'll get out to the computer. And then this is where the crank request pin is also going to come back in. I have to tie this wire to that wire to complete that circuit. And then if you look in here, this is where the powertrain interface module connector is. So that extra wiring I got for a powertrain interface module, I took one of the unneeded pins and I pulled it out. And I've now put it in here in the pin 11 slot. And then that's going to be the wire that my crank request is going to come from once I get the powertrain information module reconfigured and reinstalled back in there. So obviously my main goal in doing this is to get my own car running on the E38. But the next primary goal of doing all this is to create a knowledge base. So anybody who would want to try to do this on their own car has enough information at their disposal where they could do it. But there is going to be a caveat to that I am discovering throughout this process. And it goes back to what I just showed you in the car with those connectors for that body harness and the powertrain information module. The problem is those little pins that you need are specialized pins, and they're not pins you're just going to be able to go on a website and easily track down. I don't know what their part numbers are. I don't know how I'd be able to find them apart from getting connectors out of a wrecked GTO. So that is the one caveat, is if you wanted to do this project yourself, you're going to have to get, if you want to do it the way I'm doing it, by adding those wires to that internal white connector, you're going to have to get those ends out of a junk GTO to get those pins. And getting them out of there is a complicated process. You would be amazed how difficult it is to get the pins out of these things. They really do not want to come out. The powertrain information module is a little bit easier. but still not as easy as an ECM. Now, these connector pins are a dime a dozen, easy to obtain. However, then I found out when I was putting all the wiring together, this is the main ground pin for the ECU, and looking at it, it looked like it was pretty much the same pin on E40 and an E38, but then I tried to put this in the E38 connector and found out, no, actually the shape is just different enough that you can put it in, but it won't stay in there straight. It gets crooked, and then it would never go into the ECU pin. So I'm gonna actually have to get the ground pin specific to an E38, so I'm gonna have to figure out what the part number is for this and order just one pin. But like I said, the next episode you see will hopefully be with my buddy Sean here, and we're gonna be firing up the bench harness, and we're gonna be turning on and trying to get modules to interface and talk to each other and get that powertrain interface module reprogrammed to look for crank requests on pin 11. If we can get that done, we're a long way ahead. And then all we gotta do is security link powertrain interface module to ECU, which is going to require me to call the dealer because I need to get a 4-digit security code from the dealer on that one. But hopefully that'll be coming in part 6, and then we'll be a lot closer to making all of this a reality. So keep looking for that. I will be working on that soon, and I'm going to try to get episodes out as fast as I can, and we'll get this project going as soon as I can. So thanks for watching Josh's Car Corner. We'll see you soon.